Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast for our preview of UFC Vegas 62, I want to say. Pretty sure it's 62, although my producer Josh will correct me in a second if I'm wrong. Headlined by Viviane Araujo, taking on one of my favorite fighters in the female flyweight division, Alexa Grasso. Pretty good card overall, particularly thinking that I couldn't even see any fights announced on Google for this until last week. But good fights all the way through. Some entertaining and some interesting fights on the prelims. Even a couple where I think the level's going to be terrible. For reasons we will discuss, I am excited to see them. I am joined, as always, by the producer of the show and co-host, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know why you're excited for that Mike Jackson fight. I'm not. And I don't know what kind of notes you think I'm keeping. I think it's UFC Vegas 62. It probably is. If it isn't 62, it's 63. 62 is definitely recently, if not this week. But yeah, hell yeah, Matt.
It is, but
this is
I got it right.
fucking
62. I got it right. Bang on.
Well,
62. I should
congratulations. And the real winner here is us, the MMA fan, because this is a good fucking card, which also has a Mike Jackson fight on it. What are you going to do?
Had to wait a couple of weeks for this. We've not had a lot of MMA in the last month. Week off, card, week off, this card. We're back in the swing of things. This is the appetizer for next week's UFC 280 card in Abu Dhabi, which we are super excited about because it's on at normal goddamn times for European viewers.
We're doing a watch along.
We're going to be doing a watch along. I think we are doing a watch along. So that should be good fun. My dad might be in town that weekend as well, so I'm going to try and persuade him to do the watch along. I'm not sure if he will agree, but we will see what happens there. We're talking about this card though, and before we do that, reminder, please like the video. If you are enjoying the content, subscribe if you are not already subscribed, and feel free to leave comments even if they are negative. Feedback is always appreciated.
Gonna want to see your picks, Ron Sizzling Ron. Shit, what was his name?
Ron Sizzle.
Ron Sizzle. I want to see at least...
We would like some picks, Ron Sizzle.
At least the main card.
That would be cool.
With the Magni D-Rod drop-off, I've only got a 4-fight main card. Have we got 5 fights on the main card right now?
I have got 5 fights. I've got Grasso Araujo, Swanson Martinez, Askarov Royval, Jordan Wright Dusko Todorovic, and Misha Serkinov taking on Alonzo Minifield as my main card.
Yeah, I guess they're going to put the light heavies on there. I think there's other.
We can talk about
over that. All right.
Yeah,
Ron,
there's.
I'm going to want to see at least those 5 pow, if not all.
Well, man, I'm not happy with the order of a couple of these fights. There's some people I think they're doing a little dirty, but we will discuss that as we go down. Starting with the main event, as we always do, let's talk about this. We've got Alexa Grasso, Viviane Araujo. Alexa Grasso came in red hot into the UFC. I think she'd had something like at least 3 knockouts all in the first minute of the first round. Loads of hype coming into her as a strawweight contender. And she misses weight a couple of times. Does have some good fights. Has a very unfortunate loss to Carla Esparza, where she also missed weight. I personally thought that fight should have been a draw. Since she's moved up to flyweight, she's undefeated. Beat Macy Barber. She's beaten in her last fight. Oh, God, what's her name?
Woods.
Jojo Wood. She had another win. Korean girl. Can't remember her name. Ji-Yeon Kim. So she's looking good in this division. There are questions if she's big enough for it. I don't think that for her frame, it's the most natural weight class for her. And Viviane Araujo is an athlete. She's had a couple of bad losses, not awful ones, but losing to Jessica Ai was a setback. Since then, she's looked pretty damn good. Starting to put together wins, beating good people, coming into this confidence, and I mean, really, with the absence of a contender, this could be an unofficial, but kind of ends up being a sort of title eliminator, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if Vivi wins, then maybe it's going to be a rematch with Chikagian. But I think Grasso's kind of got enough momentum behind her right now that this win, it potentially puts her up there. Or at very least, it gives the UFC some options. Things have to get rearranged around injuries and so on. It's something that happens a lot more with championship fights because obviously one of those fighters is almost a prerequisite. You need that to have the fucking fight happen. It's good to have these backups sometimes. It probably should be a title eliminator. I wouldn't be surprised to see the winner of this one fight for the title again soon. Although again, I think if it is Araujo, she's probably going to have to go through Chikagian. And that's obviously not a fucking given, as we saw last time out. More than anything, though, I just think this is a fun fight. This is a fun fight on paper. I'm glad we're not doing a pick show for this one. I honestly couldn't pick it. I can't even begin to break down how I like to think. Every now and again, I have these little premonitions. I see the styles on paper, and I know more or less the theme of the fight. I almost felt like I had a better time describing how the previous pay-per-view was going to play out once we had 3 fights rearranged last fucking minute. And that's only because I anticipated it probably wasn't going to be that fun. The only thing I'm saying for sure, Matt, is I reckon this was going to be a fucking fun one. What do you reckon?
I think stylistically it's an interesting matchup. And for Grasso, every fight she's going to have in this division, there's going to be a bit of a question. She hasn't got a long reach. She's not particularly tall.
They're pretty similar on this one.
They are. But Viviane Araujo, I would... And this is where it's going to get tricky. Alexa Grasso's made amazing improvements in her grappling. I mean, just look at the Wood fight, where she's able to take it back, get the kind of sort of judo roll takedown, immediately sink in the hooks. And this is somebody who's predominantly known as being a striker. Against Macy Barber, she was able to do a really good job of controlling positions, stopping the takedown. The boxing is crisp. She moves. She doesn't stay in one place. She sets her shots up really nicely. Really fast hands. I think that's going to be the hardest thing for Viviane Araujo to deal with is when Alexa Grasso throws, she's throwing in 3-4 strike combinations, and it's fast. Everything's well trained, tight hooks, mixing uppercuts in. She'll go to the body. Araujo does have a kind of physicality to her, though. You saw in the Andrea Lee fight, it didn't go well for her at certain points. That fight was going really badly, but she was able to get in close and just kind of manhandle Andrea Lee. That would be my worry for Grasso, is can she deal with that? To her credit, she kind of had to deal with that with Macy Barber, but I feel that Araujo's a lot further along in that than Macy Barber. Maybe not as big, maybe not as strong, but I think a little bit more technical and certainly more dangerous on the ground with her jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, plus Barber could be a little inconsistent. Definitely kind of wears mentally as the fight's going. How much of it is, Joe kind of lost the hunger for it. Macy had a bit of a shit night. Isn't a complete fighter. Interestingly enough, by the way, Grasso the taller fighter, but Araujo with the reach. 5'5" to 5'4", and then 66 to 68 inches. Not a lot in it. But
it's not. But
Vivi's definitely,
if you look,
in my mind, got a bit more. She looks the stronger hitter. Goddamn, Chikagian, rangy fighter, but way heavier on her feet, slower. I haven't got enough comparisons in terms of the other girls that they fought against. I think the best thing you've kind of said there is that it's definitely going to be dictated by those first few exchanges and how the clinch work it goes in the first round. Because I think this fight is there to be rewritten, well, not written, but to just be written to be dictated by whoever wants to take the initiative early doors and come out with the more effective game plan round one. Not necessarily the most aggressive fighter, but the fighter that can really control that first round. And it sounds easy to say. Of course, you put one round in the bank. Even in a 5-round fight, that's still worth a lot. But honestly, I think the first round's probably going to tell us everything. I hope not. Those aren't always the best fights. I prefer seeing
I think it's not so much that
rallying, but
I think it's more just going to be a case of if Alexa Grasso can show that she will get clinched in this, whether from moving around or looking to come in and strike, she's going to get clinched early. And if she can break away from that and deal with it, it's a little similar to the Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker situation. All Whittaker really needed to do is just show that when he did get held against the fence, he could just break away and just disengage and reset. Once that was established, you knew the fight was over because you just knew that Vettori was never going to get this into the real estate that he needed. And I think for Araujo, it's going to be fairly similar because if she can't get the fight to the ground, she won't be able to be effective with her striking, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably. I think it's a clear way to nullify him. Get him down on the mat or get him out of their out of that clinch position.
Also, I think this isn't from an analytical perspective. This is just from a fan perspective. I feel like I know how good Araujo is to a certain extent, which isn't to say that she can't surprise everybody and improve, but I've seen the people that she's lost to. She's 35 years old. I don't view her as somebody that will beat Shevchenko or will be an interesting or a meaningful name in the kind of title challenger pool. Whereas Alexa Grasso still has that, 29 years old, younger, but she's still new in this division. It still feels like she's making rapid improvements. And there's still that excitement about having contenders in a division with a dominant champion who are very marketable, lovely, easy to get behind. Obviously from a great camp, really trying to do the whole wants to bring a belt to Mexico, training and, having a gym based in Mexico, not having to go to America. There's lots of things I like about that. There's lots of storylines that I think would be good for a title shot. So I'd be happy to see Grasso pull this off because she's an interesting title challenger and we need this right now. It's either that or would people just want to see another Tyler Santos fight against Shevchenko, which I'm also excited for, but we need to have more than just, this one fight was close, so we can do that one again. There's got to be some more excitement to have. There's got to be other people that make us think like, well, that's interesting. And I'm not saying that I think Grasso would beat Shevchenko. I actually think that would be a really bad matchup, and that kind of being a little small for the division would really come very apparent in that fight. You'd still have the conversations. It would still be a fight that I'd be interested in seeing.
It's an interesting point. I mean, Grasso's definitely got the most to gain from this fight. Like you say, she's kind of just got that little excitement factor. The younger challenger. The sort of idea she's still on her way up. Definitely got the most to win in this fight. Do you think the win gets her there?
I'd have to look at the rankings. Give me a second.
Because I think that they're still probably going to take a look at maybe Shevchenko challenging Nunes at 35 or...
I definitely think they're going to do that. But they're going to need to have something. And if they do that, it's going to be even more important that they have an interesting fight for Shevchenko to come back to if she loses. Because even though it's not in the same weight class, it still takes a little bit of stock off a champion if they go up and fail to get that second belt. It shouldn't, but it does. And I've got to be honest. So looking at the other rankings, you got Chookagian at 1, Santos at 2, Murphy at 3, Andrade at 4, Grasso at 5, Araujo at 6. So you've got Manon Fiorot at 7. She's an interesting contender potentially, but definitely at least a fight away.
And she's got the Chookagian fight coming up real soon. I can't remember when it got moved to.
So I'll tell you what. Card. I think that if Fiorot was to beat Chookagian, I would argue that she's got the strongest claim to the next title shot. And I wouldn't say that that's unfair. But if Chookagian was to beat Fiorot, you're in a situation where if Grasso wins on Saturday, she is behind 4 people in the rankings that have all been have all lost to the champion in her last 4 defenses.
Yeah, but if Shevchenko wins that Nunes fight, until they tell her no, it's going to delay things. And
that's true.
Can Fiorot and Grasso go that long without getting a paycheck? I suspect we're going to see the winner of this fight against the winner of the Fiorot Chookagian fight.
Yeah.
I hope not, though.
I hope not.
Let's just keep lining up the challenges and keep the champ busy.
Lauren Murphy needs to fight somebody. I wouldn't mind her fighting the winner of this. Aside from that, I'm going to be honest. I love Alexa Grasso, but if she can get a title shot without having to fight either Andrade, Tyler Santos, or frankly, to be honest, Caitlin Chukagian, I think she's doing herself a lot of favors because those are three really fucking hard women to beat in this division. I know they all lost to the champ, but
so that's the thing.
They've all got...
You don't have to beat him because Shevchenko did it for you.
Well, that's hopefully the logic that applies.
It's that
I mean, even Chukagian,
silver factor in it. Mighty Mouse.
You know, even Chukagian, she gets a lot of shit because of her fight style and the fact that there is a feeling that she doesn't really have the ability to hurt other people with any kind of significant power. She still fucking beats enough people to stay as the number one contender. You know what I mean? The only people she's lost to in this division is basically what? Shevchenko and Andrade. I mean, you're only losing to champions. So I'm not taking her name off that list. She's a fucking nightmare fight. We're getting off this card though, but Fioro, I think, still wins that fight.
Yeah. Anyway, we should definitely move on to the co-main because
we should move on to the co-main. It's got one of your. Hey, listen, it's the main event. It's a good fight. We won't dwell too much on these, but always fun to see Cub Swanson fighting at bantamweight.
Debut.
So cutting all the way down. Interesting move. Obviously, listen, we all know what the conversation is going to be. He's older. What does that do to his chin? He's fighting Jonathan Martinez, who is no slouch. Nice boxing fundamentals. Not crazy power, but he'll put it together and he'll hurt you and he'll pick you apart. This is a good fight for both guys.
Yeah, you look at the guys the Martinez has lost to, though, and it does tend to be guys that can suck you into a brawl. Davey Grant knocked him out just by... and Martinez was doing great in that fight, but it's just not the fight you want to fight against Davey. Cub's going to be a slightly different kind of problem. He's going to want to keep it close, technical, aggressive, bite down on the mouthpiece, but it's going to be landing clean, crisp shots on you while you're swinging at air. No doubt he's going to crack out the cartwheel kick. Jonathan Martinez, God love him, big fucking head. He's my fucking guy. I think this is a bad style matchup. I think Cub and his team have picked this one out quite carefully. A guy with a lot of hype. A guy that's becoming a bit of a name in the division. A guy on paper that Cub Swanson should be beating.
I hear you. My question's just the weight cut. The only thing I would say, I'd be really surprised if Cub's cutting a crazy amount of weight to get down there. I think this might be much more of a... excuse me, drop a bit. I think this might be much more of a... He's just naturally losing weight. He's probably doing a lot more cardio. Yeah. Maybe the muscle mass has just naturally gone down. Is he still going to hit as hard? Does it really matter? He's still going to be fast.
Is he going to hit as hard? No, I doubt it. But he hasn't been hitting as hard for a little while. It's fine. He's also been
still
slowing
finished
up.
Araujo, of course.
Yeah, it still looks quick because he knows how to set up big shots. He knows how to be very effective in a very aggressive fight. He knows how to be very effective in a very fucking technical fight. To be honest, the only times he ever really truly got outclassed were guys like Jose Aldo. We know how good Cub Swanson is. He's almost good enough to be one of the best. Almost. On his day, he fucking is. Jonathan Martinez is going to have to mind his P's and Q's. He's going to have to be on top fucking form and hope that Cub's body doesn't like cutting down to 35 a whole day before. On paper, though, I think this is a good fight, fun fight. Definitely glad it's co-main. This is a fight Cub Swanson should be using to really kind of announce himself at bantamweight. That's how I feel.
I wouldn't be putting any money on this one, though. There's a lot of variables with a guy moving down and weight for the first time, particularly at 38.
Yeah, I can't imagine putting money on any fight on the top three.
I'd agree with that. Speaking of which, talking of that top three, let's talk about... Otis is excited about this one.
Yep, that's Otis o'clock. That's how you know it's ranked fighters. Because he only barks for ranked
Askar,
fighters and literally everything else that exists.
pretty much. Askar Askarov. Is this his first fight after losing to Kai Kara France?
Yes, it is. Wait, let me double check that.
Taking
actually.
on,
I'm pretty sure it is.
taking on
Yeah, it is.
Brandon Royval, who, listen, we talked about this guy a lot, and we were red hot on this guy not that long ago, and he's had a couple of setbacks. But to his fairness, but to be fair, he's come back really well. Bontarin and Schnell are not bad names to have in the win column.
Yeah, and the Moreno fight was basically just like a dislocated shoulder. He got caught by Pantoja and tapped. You know, he was a little too willing to engage on the ground. Wasn't actually doing awful until he wasn't. To be honest, still just shouldn't be engaging with Pantoja on the ground like that. But this is a good fucking fight, man.
I'd back Askarov to win this, but the thing is, I don't know if he's ever fought somebody that's going to scramble the way that Royval does. I mean, that guy is like a fucking bunny. He does have a win over Elliot, but man, Elliot doesn't scramble like Royval scrambles, dude. I'm not saying it's not close. It's that style, but it's not the same thing, dude. Royval will start a scramble before he's in a grappling situation. The guy comes to scramble. He lives in chaos.
Well, yeah, he's a very, very aggressive fighter. Can be very opportunistic, but doesn't necessarily set that mistake up that well. I don't like Askar Askarov, similar to the Cub Swanson situation in the co-main, should be winning this fight on paper. The big difference here, Brandon Royval, way more weapons. Completely blanking on it. If only I hadn't just made a cut, I'd make another one. Then the old big head Jonathan Martinez saved it. It was so smooth. Honestly.
That was good.
Thank you. So many more weapons than Martinez. Not that I'm slating Martinez as still a very dangerous fighter, but just not on the same level as Raw Dog. We fucking love Brandon Royval. Love us a bit of Raw Dog. Any cunt walking out to ODB is alright by me. I still think Askar Askarov's going to win. Just very, very glad. Going to reiterate one more time. We're not making picks this week. I don't have to feel like a traitor.
Yeah, it's completely different types of styles, because I feel like Askarov is all about control. He is about getting you down and controlling and making calculated decisions all the time. And Royval is just about trusting his instincts, trusting his ability, making chaos, and just pulling something out of nothing. I really don't know what happens with this one. Before the Kai Kara France defeat, I would have said Askarov 100%, down to maybe 85%, because he did kind of show that he flags a little bit. You know, I think he's got 2 rounds of that like heavy wrestling controlling style, and then it becomes a bit easier to deal with. So, and Royval's an energizer, Buzzy, man. And unless you take that guy out, man, he is going full pace for 15 minutes. So this is a good fight. I'll tell you what, if Royval wins this, man, he is straight in that title contending conversation. If Askarov wins this, I mean, he's got a win over the interim champ.
Yep, it's a fucking interesting one. I can't wait. This is my favourite fight. This is why Otis was doing his absolute nut earlier. This is probably my favourite fight on the card. And
right.
That's with Cub Swanson.
It's my second favourite.
Grasso Araujo. This is a good fucking card. Have we done your favourite fight already? Or is your favourite coming up?
Oh, no. My favourite's a long way away from discussion, don't you worry.
Oh, no. Why is Mike Jackson your favourite?
Oh, mate, because I've got so much to talk about on this one. How is this man a professional fighter in the UFC? It's fantastic. He's got to win. He's undefeated in the UFC.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's not. Todorovic, right?
Yeah, talking about guys where their status as UFC fighters is yet to be decided. Jordan Wright versus Dusko Todorovic. I know I say this a lot and it doesn't always apply, but fuck me, is this glass cannon versus glass cannon.
Yeah,
Two
this
guys
time
whose
it really is. It really is.
chins have never been tucked in their entire lives. Every strike they've ever thrown, the chin is hanging proud, standing right up there. This is whoever lands wins. The only factor I'd say is this. Yeah, I feel like Jordan Wright. I haven't seen him grapple. I've seen Todorovic grapple. I know he can do that. There's a strong possibility that he just comes out and just tries to take Jordan Wright down.
Yeah, I want to say Wright's got like a brown or a black belt, but I'm pulling that from my memory. I can't see that written down there. Yeah, you're right. I haven't really seen him grapple either. Uh, Outside of wrestling, most grappling credentials don't directly translate to MMA, and even wrestling doesn't perfectly. It just kind of gives you the best base to not have to adapt too much or modify anything. So, not even just for grappling, actually, just for all sports. Yeah, I need to learn to wrestle. That's why I keep losing all these fights. I think
Yeah,
Todorovic is going to take this one. If he doesn't, I think he's getting cut.
I think
Right.
either guy gets cut if they lose.
Yeah, I think Wright, win or lose, is only ever going to be one fight away from getting cut for the rest of his UFC career. Unless
Dude,
he
he hasn't won.
magically turns it around.
Yeah, dude, he's on a.
2 fight losing streak. But
Well, he
uh,
lost to Buckley,
it,
beat Ike Villanueva, which doesn't say
yeah,
much. Lost to
Villanueva
Bruno Silva.
kind of ran through him, got the doctor's finish. Pickett, I'm pretty sure, had him rocked pretty bad before he put him away. And I'm kind of thinking
Correct.
back a little bit there. You can't be a consistent combat sports athlete if you're not very good at taking a punch early in your career. 'Cause it's not going to get better. That's just going to get worse.
And you also can't wrestle. So you can't take the fight to the one area where you're less likely to get hit in the
I
face.
don't know if he can, but if he
But
can,
he
he
doesn't.
hasn't been smart enough to implement it. So if he is good at takedowns, good at control, if he's got a submission game, if he's good at controlling from the top, sweeping from the bottom, then I hope he does get cut because he's a very stupid fighter. He's been losing a lot of fights needlessly. My
Well said.
suspicion is that he's not very good in these departments, or he doesn't have enough faith in it. Yeah.
That is reasonable. Talking of guys that haven't quite got it done in their or any division, Misha Serkinov, who is still not cut, is taking on Alonzo Menefield, who can put together some wins, but then has a loss that kind of sets him back. I do not know how Serkinov still has a job in the UFC.
He's lost 6
Let's see
of
how
the
many.
last 8 fights.
Yeah, I thought so. His saving grace was his move to middleweight, wasn't it? That was his big thing. He's going down to middleweight, and then he didn't win a fight at middleweight. So he's now apparently got a stay of execution by going back up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
lost to Span, lost to Jokai, which is like, okay, I think Jokai's... I
Wellington
think
Turman.
I might have picked against him in that fight, actually, but Jokai's a bit better than him. But yeah, dude, losing to Turman. Yeah, fair enough, you get submitted by Turman, but, these days, no one beats Turman. Because Turman suppose he has to go away and find himself and do some self-discovery. It's not looking fucking good.
Yeah,
At least Alonzo Menefield, I can be like, a tough guy, like his attitude, hits pretty hard. Yeah, shit, he got that Von Flue choke. It's nice when it's not just OSP picking out the shrewd moves. I hope Menefield wins.
I think he wins, dude.
I'm
I
glad we're
don't.
not doing the pick show because it'd be that time you pick against Misha and he actually fucking does it.
If Serkinov loses this fight and stays in the UFC, he has got like Sam Alvey level dirt on Dana White.
Yeah, or Jean Volonté level lips.
Very possible as well.
We'll never know. how Volante kept his job for so long. Not just by losing, but performing poorly and in the wrong weight class. It's just one of those things. Like it's in my mind, it's like the biggest MMA conspiracy there is. Other people
I guarantee you.
get way more money than
I
he does.
guarantee you. I guarantee you there are bigger ones.
Well,
There's
so
a
you don't know where
documentary
this
to.
one goes, dude. How the fuck did Jean Volante keep his job for that fucking long? A man I once
Do you want
said
to do a
on this
whole?
podcast is the only overpaid UFC fighter. Just
We've never done a ring resume, but do you want to do an entire podcast just on the Jean Volante conspiracy, where we look across all of his UFC fights, performances, and the state of shape,
no, because
physical
the
shape that he
only
showed up to the
interesting
fight?
thing about it is the one element we don't know. It's a lot of work to talk about someone I don't want to talk about.
But dude,
That's
that's
just
the same. That's the same principle as DB Cooper, and they still make 3 documentaries about that guy every 2 years. The only interesting thing about it is that we don't know who he is, and it's the one thing that nobody's figured out. Because guess what? The
alright.
motherfucker's probably dead.
Alright, John Volante jumps out of fucking plane with a bag of money. I'll do the episode.
Well, obviously not. But you know that
Until
Chael
he does
Sonnen
something that
says.
interesting, I'm not in. God, wait,
You know, Chael Sonnen says that he knows who DB Cooper is.
He is DB Cooper. He is also DB Cooper's own father. I have it on authority. Chow will lie if you ask him, but he'll wink when he does it, so you'll know it's true.
Fair enough. Back to the card. We'll run through the prelims quickly. Prelim headliner is Mana Martinez taking on Brandon Davis. I do not understand that because you've got Rafael Assunção on this card. Literally one fight below. It's like, come on, guys. He's not even on the main card. What are we doing here?
Yes, yeah, that fight should be on the main cards. But then I'd also say the Davis Manaboy fight, good fucking fight. I mean, I would put Sun Sao probably on the main card just for name value alone. But looking at the matchup and going with the Victor Henry's only had one UFC fight so far, right? Yeah, and a good fight, but still, I don't have too many complaints with this fight being higher. My problem is the heavier boys, Todorovic Wright, Serkinov Menefeld, just automatically getting marquee spots based on how big they are when there's much better fights on these prelims.
Let's be honest, if Assunção loses this fight, man, it might be his last one in the UFC. I know the guy's not like, you know, he never fought for a belt. We're not talking about some great former champion, but like this was a good fighter, man. He's had a lot of UFC fights. I just think, you know, for what might be his last fight, as Otis is going ballistic in the background, it just seems like a shame that. Yeah, it just seems like it's a shame that, you know, what if this is his last fight and it's some, you know, second last fight on the prelims and then he just gets forgotten about?
It kind of happens with the majority of athletes, not even just fighters. But I mean,
True.
Yeah. Even just fucking doing it in the Apex kind of just fucking sucks enough. You're not really getting to do it in front of the fans, so win or lose, even if it was the fucking main event of this whole thing, still kind of flat. It's not the way you really want to go. No one wants to go. It just fucking is what it is. Still, I think Sun Sao on paper probably should win. Four losses in a row right now. Victor Henry actually looking quite tidy. I don't know. And fucking Mana Martinez, Brandon Davis. We're not making picks. I put my money on Mana. I don't know what the odds are. If he's a heavy favourite.
I was leaning Mana. I would lean Mana.
Yeah, slight favourite. But again, I just think that's going to be a great fucking fight. Killer B always comes.
Well, listen, we got some good matchups. So there's Anderson Brito, Lucas Alexander, Nick Maximov against Jacob Malkoon.
That's a good fight.
I'm pretty high on both guys. The only thing I'd say is I feel like Malkoon presents a lot of the problems that Petrosky presented. And we saw that Maximov kind of struggled there a little bit. But
I think Malkoon's a lot stronger as well.
Yeah, but Maximov also, It's hard because the 2 wins he had was more against strikers. So I don't, and the general kryptonite for like a Diaz type fighter has been like a heavy wrestling smothering approach.
Yeah. And to be honest, I thought he beat Brendan Allen, so he's 2-2 in the UFC. I think he should be 3-1.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100%.
And I like Brendan Allen.
Other fight. Opening 3 fights, still something to say. Piero Rodriguez is 8-0, won a UFC debut against Kay Hansen. Taking on Sam Hughes, he's 7-4, but she has really started putting it together. Like, I remember the first couple of fights in the UFC, we were talking about her and just saying she just looks like she's being fed to the wolves. And then I think she went to either ATT or AKA, she went to a good gym. And that first fight she had, who was it against? I'll tell you in a second.
Stella Nunes.
Yeah, it was a different animal. It was a totally different animal. And then she beat Elise Reed, who I thought looked pretty good when she fought Corey McKenna. And she's had another good win more recently. So that's a couple of decent wins. That's some more competitive, and Piero Rodriguez undefeated, but you also wonder how many real challenges has she come up against. Sam Hughes has already had to kind of face some losses and kind of make adjustments and come back. That's a good matchup. That's a really good matchup. And then CJ Vergara, he's always
again. Yeah, against CJ Vergara. I think that'd be a good fight. And
they do this to CJ though, don't they? Who's the other guy he had to fight?
Bring him up real quick.
He's had to fight a couple of the exciting prospects.
Osborne.
That's right.
Close fight.
He's not getting an easy run.
Nah.
At all. But he's a good fighter. Really good fighter. And the tension is over, guys. We've been building this up long enough. Mike Jackson versus Pete Rodriguez has got to be the lowest level fight in UFC history, aside from Mike Jackson's other UFC fights, one of his other UFC fights, I should say, against CM Punk. So Mike Jackson, who is 1-1 and won no contest in the UFC. I don't even realize he's 1-1. I thought he was 1-0-1. Who did he lose to?
No, he's 0 losses. Oh wait,
yeah, it's
sorry,
one.
What am I talking
Yeah,
about?
that's right.
Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall.
No, that was CM Punk.
Yeah, shit. No, I'm looking at Mike Jackson's record. Mickey Gall beat him on UFC Fight Night 82. That was the fight to decide who was going to fight CM Punk, right? And then he ends up fighting CM Punk anyway.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm mistaken. Okay, well, either way, he's 1-1-1. He's probably the lowest level fighter that's ever been there. But this guy was literally a journalist, and he's actually doing it. And he got a win via disqualification.
Yeah.
Pete Rodriguez did not look particularly good against Della Maddalena. He looked like a guy that was there to get beat, which he basically was. I think Mike Jackson could win this fight. And to just explain what that means, that would mean that Mike Jackson has a winning record after 4 fights in the UFC.
No,
Let that sink in for you.
There's a reason we don't care about him.
Within half an hour of this card starting, the second least talented fighter that's ever fought in the UFC, quite possibly, could have a winning record after 4 fights. If that is not a testament to a man going beyond his capabilities, I do not know what is.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever happened to Dean Barry as well? Because the weird thing is, like, before that eye gouge, eye poke thing, Dean Barry looked pure fucking
Was a
dog
hot
shit.
prospect.
And yeah, but he looked awful in that fight. And it was just like, maybe if he just hits him hard enough, Mike Jackson's going to fold. But he looked fucking awful. I hope Dean Barry already got cut.
Oh, he did. He got cut after that. They will not keep a man who loses to Mike Jackson on this roster. The same will be true of Pete Rodriguez if he was to lose.
Yeah, shit. Already pulled out of another fight, signed with Titan FC. Best of luck to you, Dean.
Sorry, Dean, we hardly knew you. And that is prelims done. That is UFC 62. That is our preview show. We recommend tuning in for it. It's going to be a fun card all the way through. Definitely tune in for that Mike Jackson fight to kick things off.
Skip.
We do have a little bit of
skip it twice.
We do have a little bit of news to touch on because there has been a plethora of announced fights. I mean, 18 fights have been announced recently. I think even more. I'm just going through the list. In 2 weeks' time, Drakkar Klose versus Marco Madsen. It's been added to the October 29th card. We've got D-Rod versus Neil Magny, moved to November 5th. UFC 281, as I've got Otis growling in the background, very annoyingly. UFC 281 now has... Sorry, Josh, you might need to cut this part out.
Yeah.
Particularly since it sounds like you're instigating his growling.
No, I am trying to get him to stop, but he is just out of arm's reach. Otis, please. You don't need to instigate him, man. He just does this shit all the fucking time, constantly.
That I feel for you.
As fuck.
Okay, peace. Back in. As I was saying, so many fights announced. Frankie Edgar's retirement fight is against Chris Gutierrez in New York at UFC 281. Probably not the opponent we all wanted him to have, but I mean, circumstances controlling, he wasn't going to fight Dominic Cruz after the knockout loss that he suffered. Moving into December, we have got Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland. So much for the retirement. That lasted about a week and a half.
I mean, that's a pretty good fight to come out of retirement for.
It's a damn good fight. And it's a fight that they both wanted. They both wanted to fight a striker. I can't blame them after their last fight's experience. RDA is going to be fighting Brian Barberena. That is clearly a welterweight fight, which means that RDA is no longer thinking about the title after losing to Fiziev. He's just having some fun fights without cutting weight. Moving down, 3 December, Saeed Nurmagomedov is taking on Saidukub Kakramanov. That should be a fucking great fight. Into January, Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is not to be officially confirmed, apparently, but that's looked at UFC Fight Night January 14th. Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 4 has been booked for UFC 283 in Rio, alongside Ihor Potieria taking on Mauricio Shogun Rua and Johnny Walker versus Paul Craig.
Nice. Oh my god,
that is a lot of fights.
I want to see him get
lots of fights. Loads of fights booked. On top of that, ones that aren't on that list, we've also got OSP versus Gustafsson being talked about for 282. We have got Tai Tuivasa versus Pavlovich added to UFC Orlando in December. And Volkanovski is officially the backup for Charles Oliveira versus Islam next weekend.
Unfortunately, he's not going to be needed. Charlie's got it this time.
I fucking hope so, man. I hope so. I am looking forward to that fight. I do not want to see that be ruined. Bit of other news just before we go. Bobby Green, big fans of Bobby Green. He's unfortunately been suspended 6 months to USADA for a violation. Details are unconfirmed. Usman versus Leon Edwards trilogy is being lined up for March, although not officially signed yet, and they are looking at Villa Park as a potential destination. I think they might want to wait a couple more months if they want to do an outdoor event in Birmingham, but that's just me. And Overeem is now once again become Ubereem as he returned to kickboxing looking stacked as ever, knocking out kickboxing legend Badr Hari.
And their final third fight. Only a trilogy. Come on, Figgy and Brandon are already up to 4. I think
know.
they'll get
That's
to
got to
10.
be. We got to appreciate that for a second. Figgy versus Moreno 4 for the title. Has that ever happened where two guys have fought each other 4 times and every single one was a title fight? With it being a true quadrilogy going into the 4th fight, win, loss, draw. The 4th fight decides it all.
How many times have people fought 4 times? I bet even Jeremy Horn hasn't fought someone 4 times.
I can't find an example of it happening in one promotion. The ones that come to mind is I can think. Well, Rampage Jackson fought Silva 4 times, but 2 were in Pride, 1 was in the UFC, and 1 was in Bellator. So it must have happened. Obviously, there's been trilogies. You've had, oh God, what was it? The awful Chuck Liddell versus Tito trilogy. That wasn't a 4, but and again,
that third one doesn't count for me.
Yeah, it shouldn't. This is a special thing, man. The 2 best guys fought each other 4 times in a weight class, or will have fought each other 4 times in a weight class, with the record, everything to be decided in that 4th one. I think the only sad part is that whoever loses that fight, I mean, you're still the dude, man. You know what I mean? But
I don't think it's the last time they fight.
You don't? You think they get to 5?
I don't think they're really going to get to 10. I think they'll definitely do 5. Not right away. It feels kind of inevitable, unless one of these guys leaves the division. Just sort of feels inevitable that they'll fight again. If they're interested in just making the top level fights that you possibly can at flyweight, just feels inevitable. Neither guy's on the precipice of tailing off from his peak or anything like that. You know, can Figgy carry on making the weight? Is he going to keep on bulking up? That's my only real kind of sort of concern. Is in what would threaten a 5th or a 6th fight?
That's the question for me. Is the weight cut going to be too much? Does Figgy eventually move up to bantamweight in a way that I don't think Moreno ever could?
Well, if he loses, I think he's going to be motivated to keep on making the weight. And if he wins, he's kind of obliged to keep on making the weight. So I kind of hope that there will be at least a 5th. We'll see.
Time will tell. Final story to leave you with, and we're not going to discuss this too long, but Khamzat Chimaev has had his passport seized whilst in Russia. So, although we all wanted to see the Colby Covington fight, it is highly possible that his next fight might be against some rather resolved Ukrainians.
I did also hear that one might not be true. I don't know. And he's actually in Chechnya at the moment. He did like Kadyrov's little thing. So I don't know if he has or he hasn't actually got his passport.
But I'm just going off the news.
It'd be pretty unlikely. I did see that story, but I think people might just be some wishful thinking. Still, you never know.
That shouldn't be wishful thinking. It's more just a case of for somebody to say how much they love being considering themselves.
I saw your eyes light up when you dropped that little tidbit. Don't tell me it's not
maybe
wishful
you caught me.
thinking.
Maybe you caught me.
I don't think you're alone. I think he pisses off a lot of people these days. Of course, no one wishes war on anyone, but
no. Well, with all of that discussed, we hope everyone enjoys the fights this Saturday. Another reminder to like the video. Please do subscribe if you are watching and you're not subscribed so that you can see all of our content dropping every single week, sometimes 2 videos a week, and we will be increasing on that shortly as well. And since both of us have got to return quite promptly to the lands between in Elden Ring to fight Grand Monsters, Trolls, and Gather Runes, we will leave you to it. Thanks for watching, and bye Dave, bye Laura, bye Trifo.
Bye Laurie, bye Dave.